I never thought the sound of laughter could make me sick, but that night, hearing it echo through the wooden walls of my cabin, it felt like knives dragging across my ribs. It wasn't just laughter. It was hers. Emma's voice, soft and familiar, blended with the deeper timbre of a man who wasn't me. My stomach clenched so hard it stole the air from my lungs. The cabin had always been ours. Our place to escape the noise of the city, to watch the seasons change from the porch, to drink coffee by the lake in silence. But as I stood in the shadows of the pines, my keys still in hand, I realized it had become something else. A stage for betrayal. I hadn't told her I was coming. I wanted to surprise her. At least, that's what I told myself on the drive up. But deep down I think I knew. The late-night texts she guarded. The vague explanations about extra shifts. The way her eyes no longer lingered on me but drifted somewhere I couldn't reach. I'd been collecting pieces of a truth I didn't want to admit. And now here it was. Through the cabin's window, the firelight threw shifting shadows across the walls. I saw them on the couch, her leaning into him, his hand tracing her arm with the kind of confidence a stranger doesn't have unless he's been there before. My throat burned. I wanted to storm in, to tear the place apart, to drag him out by his collar. But rage, hot and sudden, cooled into something sharper. A plan. You see, this wasn't just a cabin. It was also my workshop. Every board, every nail, every trap I'd set for deer hunting, every secret compartment. I knew them all. She thought this was her safe hideaway. She had no idea it was mine. I waited. Listened. Every word they spoke felt like acid poured on open skin. God, it's so much better here than in the city, she whispered, her tone playful, the same voice she once used with me. He chuckled. I can't believe he never brought me up here. Guess he didn't trust me. She laughed harder at that. Didn't trust him. As if trust was still part of the conversation. I moved quietly to the shed behind the cabin and pulled out the old generator. When I flipped the switch, the hum filled the silence of the woods, masking my movements. The cabin's backup lights flickered once, then died. The fire still burned inside, but the sudden outage startled them. I heard her voice rise. What was that? Probably the breaker, he said, standing. I'll check. I slipped into the side entrance before he could reach the door. The boards didn't creak for me. I'd sanded and reinforced them myself. The inside smelled like cedar, smoke, and betrayal. I could taste the bitterness on my tongue. Emma's eyes widened when she saw me. She didn't scream. She froze, her mouth opening like she might explain this away with some story. But what words could she possibly reach for now? Mark, she breathed, standing quickly. I didn't know you were coming. Clearly. My voice came out steady, colder than I felt. The man, taller than me, younger too, straightened as if ready to fight. Look, this isn't what you think. I let out a laugh so harsh it startled even me. Really? Because it looks exactly like what I think. Emma stepped forward, her hand half raised as though she could still touch me. Please let me explain. I studied her, the woman I'd loved for a decade, the woman I'd trusted more than anyone. She looked the same, brown hair falling loose around her shoulders, eyes that used to melt me, but the warmth was gone. All I saw was a stranger wrapped in the skin of my wife. No, I said. I don't need an explanation. I need you both to sit. There was something in my tone that made them obey. Maybe it was the way I didn't raise my voice, or maybe it was the knife I placed on the table between us, the same one I used to gut deer. Neither spoke. The fire popped, throwing sparks. The silence pressed on us like a weight. Finally, Emma broke. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I was lonely, Mark. You're always working, always chasing deadlines. I needed someone who made me feel seen again. The words hit harder than any blow. Part of me wanted to shout, to tell her she had me, that I'd given her everything. But another part, the quieter, crueler part, understood. I had buried myself in work, in building this life for us, assuming she'd wait forever in the spaces I left empty. But betrayal doesn't have excuses. It only has consequences. I looked at the man, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Do you love her? He hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Emma whispered, Mark, I'm sorry. Sorry. As if that patched bullet holes. I leaned back in my chair, the knife gleaming in the firelight. Do you know what this cabin really is? They exchanged a glance. Confusion. Fear. This place, I said slowly, isn't just for vacations. Every inch of it has secrets. Hidden panels. Locked compartments. Places no one would ever find. Emma's face paled. Mark, what are you saying? I smiled then, but it wasn't kindness. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. I'm saying you brought him here thinking this was your playground. But this is my world. My design. And I decide who walks out. The silence that followed was unbearable. I didn't move, didn't lift the knife, didn't threaten. I just let the weight of my words sink in. The fire crackled, the generator hummed outside, and their fear filled the room thicker than smoke. Finally, I stood. You'll leave tonight. Both of you. Take what you came with, nothing more. Don't come back. Because if you ever do. I let the sentence hang, unfinished but sharp enough to cut. Emma's lips trembled. She reached for me once more, but I stepped back. The last thing I said before walking out into the night was quiet, almost tender. This cabin was built for us. Now it's just mine. And as their voices faded behind me, swallowed by the trees, I knew something had ended forever. Not just a marriage, not just trust, but the part of me that once believed love was unbreakable.